God said he named the stars, and he called them out by name.
In this study, we will be looking at the book of Revelation through the eyes of the New Jerusalem temple.
And you've never heard anything like this in your life.
Chapter 17. And there came one of the 7 angels who had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore, which sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said to me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which had the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the pit, and shall go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind that hath wisdom, on which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have not received the kingdom as yet, but receive power 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are people, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it into her heart to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give the kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is a great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. We're going to be, first of all, pointing out where it says, And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me. Since the Hebrew letter Pei should be chapter 17, it's the 17th letter, and that this works like the King David's alphabetical psalms, we're going to understand that the word Pei means talk or mouth, and it therefore is supposed to imply talk as well, and that this has an important point, because this is how it begins. The mouth or the letter Pei follows the eye, according to the communication of the oral Torah, the letter An, and it represents the 5 kindnesses, the 5 mights, the right and left eyes that are discussed, and the power of the communion of communication, and that is speech.
What we want to do in this thing is to find out who is that whore that sits upon the many waters. Larkin felt in Revelation 17 that the woman who's riding the beast was the papal, or what the woman who's riding the beast represented the Catholic Church. And in this, he was wrong. He thought from some of the words within it, the woman sits on 7 hills, well, Rome sits on 7 hills. So does Jerusalem, for that matter, and other areas of the world. But that's not the point here. How do we know that the mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, is not supposed to represent this? Clarence Larkin saw the beast that was spoken of in Daniel. There is a beast in Daniel that very much matches the story of the book of Revelation, and he put this beast together with the beast that we're seeing in Revelation. He actually put the subject of the woman who is holding the cup together with the subject of the woman who is riding the beast, and saw it as one woman who is riding a beast that was like unto a leopard, that had 7 heads and 10 horns, and he shows us the image that is like this. He felt that the woman was the Catholic Church, but what we're about to learn within the story of the Sephira Yetzirah is that the woman is not the Catholic Church. The woman is instead the European Common Market. The woman who rides the beast is the European Common Market. The woman with the golden cup in her hand is literally Babylon, the city of Babylon. And so we're going to see how we know this from the path, the 17th path, the path of Pe, and where it moves. The path of Pe, we're noticing, is in Taurus, and it is Taurus who is considered to be a beast. The word beast here actually means ox, and there is a woman who's riding the beast. We call her Andromeda, and that's from our Greek zodiac, and we are following the Greeks in the story of Perseus. Another way to see this woman, however, is as the woman called Europa, and in the story of Europa, Zeus disguised himself as an ox and took the woman with him upon him and took her to an island and raped her. It was considered the rape of Europa. And oddly enough, within this really unusual story, was supposed to be a creation myth of how Europe came to exist. So what we had learned within Daniel was that at the time of the end, there would be 10 nations that would come out of the old Roman Empire who were supposed to be considered to be with the Antichrist, and that they would give him authority. Let's cover a little bit of that information. Celestially, there are 2 women. There's one woman who is riding the beast, and there's another woman who's holding the golden cup in her hand. Cassiopeia is a woman who's considered to be holding the golden cup in her hand. You don't really see a cup, but it was said that since Cassiopeia circled the pole star and the Big Dipper was on the other side, that she was holding the cup of the Big Dipper. Now, how could the cup of the Big Dipper represent the saints? Well, actually, the Big Dipper at one time was seen in a zodiac to represent the greater flock. It was a picture of 7 sheep, and that greater flock would represent the saints. The smaller flock was the smallest sheep and would be the little bear. But Cassiopeia, as she would spin around the pole star, it was said in mythology that she extended her hand and held this cup. Cassiopeia was the picture of Ishtar, and depending on the country that you're in, but in Babylon, they saw her as the picture of Ishtar, or the Queen of Heaven, which they, of course, attributed to themselves. And the city of Babylon was in imagery to be the Queen of Heaven. Come here, I'll show you the great whore who sits upon many waters, and with whom the kings have commanded fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit to the wilderness. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We picture that as being the image of Taurus, and the woman Andromeda is sitting upon him. But how does Taurus have 7 heads and 10 horns? The 7 heads are the 7 heads of the serpent, and the 10 horns are the 10 rays of light. And are the 7 heads are the 10 heads of the serpent. And the 10 horns are supposed to be the 10 kings who will be part of the kingdom of the final European Common Market, of the final age, that are going to be worshiping and giving their power onto the beast. The woman, it says, is arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold, precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, and filthiness in her fornication. We identify this as Cassiopeia, a picture of Ishtar, the queen of Babylon. Then it goes on and says, upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Then it went on and said, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of saints and with the martyrs of Jesus, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said, Where did thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, that hath 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which thou saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and is yet to come. This is speaking of the Antichrist. Judas, according to Clarence Larkin, fit the position of the Antichrist and was to be one who would go to hell and be raised up also like Jesus. The beast that you saw, and it says, here is the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains upon which the woman sits. It's really the 7 heads or 7 mountains that we would see. The essence of the thought of the mountain and the heads we see within this Egyptian picture. Up and to the left-hand side, we see the 7 serpents, and there's a figure next to the 7 serpents, which is again a picture like which again seems to be a picture of Horus, but this time it's not really Orion or the light of the eye exist. It's the false Christ, the one who will claim he is the light of the eye exist, that's being expressed here. He is the head, who is the one who is in league with the 7 serpents or the 7 spirits of Satan. While the woman is riding Zeus, Zeus means the twofold God, and this is the Antichrist, who is the opposite of Christ. Christ came in his Father's name. Christ came to do his Father's will. The Antichrist will come to do his own will. The Antichrist is the deceiver. Christ is, and so here we see a whole list of the things that Clarence Larkin listed within his document, showing the similarities between the opposite points, that not only is the Antichrist to be the prince of darkness, Christ is the prince of light. Not only is the Antichrist to be the son of perdition, meaning the son of Satan, but Christ was to be the son of God. And so everything in this is opposing one another. These two, Christ and the Antichrist, are opposite images of one another. But the term Zeus also means the twofold God, and we have to understand Virgo is holding 2 branches. The wheat we expect to represent he who is the bread. The barley also comes from the root, meaning the enemy or the adversary. He will be coming as Satan incarnated when he is raised up out of hell. He will say he is Jesus. We could expect that this man will have blood like Jesus, with only a mother. We might expect it to be 23 chromosomes. If there is a man in the secret place in the Judean wilderness who comes out of the secret place after the water overflows the hiding place, we will expect that this man is the Antichrist. But next to this point is, but within this room is also an opening to the abyss. And when the water overflows the hiding place, the man will fall into the abyss. There is no water in the abyss. He will be able to be raised up on the other side. And this is the path of the he-goats that's on the other side. Okay, when it speaks of the 7 heads and that there are 7 kings that are fallen, one is and one is yet to come, Clarence Larkin spoke of the 7 heads as 7 world governments. Clearly Rome was one of them, but we went back to the story of Babylon in the picture of Daniel, and Daniel was told of the kingdoms that were supposed to come. He saw an image of a giant man, and his head was supposed to be the head of gold like unto Babylon. His shoulders were to be like Trace and Media. His buttocks was to be 4 parts like Trace, Macedonia, Syria, and Egypt. His shoulders were to be, the man was to have his head of gold, that was to be like unto Nebuchadnezzar, that he was the head of gold, Daniel said. Thou art, once upon a time, in Babylon, the king had, in the actual city of Babylon, in the book of Daniel, it tells us about Babylon and that the king had a vision of a huge man, a giant. And he wanted to know what this vision meant, and Daniel came forward and explained it. He says, "You're the head of gold." So we understand that the kingdom that it was represented in the head of gold of this image was supposed to be the kingdom of Babylon. Next, the image went to shoulders, and the shoulders also had a representation. The kingdom of Babylon was divided between the Medes and the Persians, and that was to represent the shoulders. Later, the kingdom that was to come was Alexander the Great's kingdom, represented in 4 parts: Thrace, Macedonia, Syria, and Egypt, and that was to be the buttocks. Finally, were to be the legs, and this was supposed to be the Roman Empire. And out of the Roman Empire, which is the two divisions of the Roman Empire, was to come the 10 toes, and these 10 toes were to be a federation that would come in the last days. Clarence Larkin interpreted this to mean that there was going to come a kingdom that would be a federation, and the scholars today have identified that that kingdom has come. It is the European Common Market. It is a joining of the nations that are represented within Europe to be 10 nations out of the old Roman Empire. And there are other nations that are coming to be part of it, but there are specifically to be 10 that will be holding importance as they go into this. And from this 10, the Antichrist will pluck up 3. He will become the head of this kingdom as time goes on. He therefore is the beast that will rise up out of the sea, and the woman who is supposed to come is the woman who is riding the beast, and that represents Europe, who is riding the Antichrist and part of his campaign. When it says of the other woman, the woman Babylon, that it tells you that these 10 kings will burn her flesh. They're not burning the flesh of the Pope, and they're not burning the flesh of Catholics. For the European Common Market to do that at this point would require a civil war. The European Common Market will give their honor to the Antichrist, who will be coming as the Messiah and saying that he is Jesus. He will not be Jesus. He will be one who's saying, "I didn't die on the cross." But wait a second, if you didn't die on Passover and die on the cross, you aren't the Son of Man. So this man is coming saying the Son of Man didn't come in the flesh. Jesus said, "Who is a liar but he who says the Son of Man has not come in the flesh?" Jesus came in the flesh. He was the Son of Man. He died on Passover, and he did what he needed to do. He went into hell, he was raised up from hell, and this happened. But the body that we're going to find in the secret place will be that of the Antichrist, saying he's Jesus, saying he didn't die on the cross, and saying that he is the Messiah who is raised up from the grave. He will say he is Horus, the beast that rises out of the pit. Horus is also Orion, the light of the eye exists. He will say he is the Christ. So when it speaks of the 7 kings, 5 are fallen, we were looking at the time of Rome. There were 7 kings, 5 have fallen, and these were the kingdoms that had gone before. And at the time of Rome, it says the 5 have fallen, 1 is, that was Rome, and it says 1 is and 1 is yet to come. The one who is yet to come, he was to be the Antichrist, who is the one who would come to fulfill this type. So in Daniel, there was another symbolism, and we saw the picture of a he-goat. Clarence Larkin noted that the he-goat represented the 4 horns also. Clarence Larkin noted that the he-goat's 4 horns were supposed to represent the 4 nations, Thrace, Macedonia, Syria, and Egypt, and out of the little horn was to come the Antichrist. He felt that he must be a Jew, for he did not love, he cared not for the love of his fathers, he did not care for God. It also represented he didn't care for the love of woman, he didn't care for Zeus, and the story of Zeus we see attributed again to Taurus, or the beast that rises up out of the sea. Remember that we said Zeus was just another name for the symbol of Coma, who was also to be the story of the Christ. In the story of Zeus, Zeus also means the twofold God. And what we're seeing is that Jesus came to be the Christ. He is in very many ways told within Scripture to be the opposite of the Antichrist. Jesus came in his own will. Jesus came to do his Father's will. The Antichrist would come in his own will. Jesus came in the name of the Father. The Antichrist will not come in his own name. It seems like it says that. In the Bible, Jesus said that he came in the name of the Father. The Antichrist will come in his own name. We see that in the King James Version. The better translation will come in a different application of the name. And the name of God is the name of the Yud-He-Veh-He that was placed upon the rock. And there. The 10 horns which thou saw are 10 kings that have not received a kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. That means basically for a short period of time, they will be the kings with this beast who rises up out of the pit. These have one mind. They'll give their power and strength onto the beast. They'll make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. He is the Lord of lords, King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which you saw where the whore sits are people, multitudes, nations, and tongues. The 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God be fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is a great city, which reigns over the kings of the earth. And really what we're seeing is that the European common market is, if our theory is correct, the European common market is symbolized by the woman who's riding the beast, and the 10 kings are going to burn the flesh of the woman who is Babylon. We have to ask, how could that happen? How is that happening? The European common market is now in Iraq, and they are burning the flesh of people who are of ancient Babylon. Moreover, Saddam Hussein rebuilt the city of Babylon. When Babylon was destroyed, it tells us in Jeremiah 49 through 51 that Babylon was destroyed, and the same destruction we're hearing within Revelation 17. So when we know that they're talking about the same thing, we're able to understand what's going on. Many of the scholars now are translating that they believe that there will come a time when the people in Iraq will run for safety to the city of ancient Babylon, and it will be at that time that the city will be burnt, and they will burn their flesh. If the city is burnt by the European common market, then we will see the fulfillment of this woman who is riding the beast burning their flesh. And when it says God put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and to give the kingdom unto the beast, that the words of God should be fulfilled, yes. How does that happen? The Antichrist will raise up from the mountain that's in the area of the Dead Sea. He will, the water overflows the hiding place, places him into the pit. He raises up out of the pit. Judas went to his own place. That his own place is the pit. And the essence of this pit is the pit. It says the blind will lead the blind. The true name of Satan, according to Judaism, Satan's name was Samuel. We call him Satan, meaning adversary, but Samuel means the blind. And when we hear of the blind leading the blind, and they shall both fall into the pit, this is the story of what's getting ready to take place.